Hello and welcome to the second round of messages for each of the specific nodal groups. And in this video, we are going to have a specific message for the Capricorn North Node, Aquarius, and Pisces North Nodes. So those messages, you'll find timestamps in the description, specifically geared towards anyone with those nodal placements. You could also translate that to the 10th, 11th, and 12th house North Nodes. So if your North Node falls in one of those houses, you may also be called to watch the corresponding message. Or also, there are many features in our natal chart where a certain planet represents through its own, its own philosophy, through its own, what's the word I'm looking for here? Frequency or pattern. It naturally gears towards, you're building up that energy or you're healing something in that energy because you don't have it yet, or it's an overindulgence in an energy, more like the South Node. So there's lots of things in the birth chart that will work like the North Node and South Node axis. For example, my midheaven is in Capricorn, and when I study the Capricorn North Node chapter, I see a very specific resonance with my own journey of kind of early life and beginnings and foundations, like more that fourth house cusp of the IC being in Cancer for me. I see a very watery start. I see a very emotionally intense, fluid beginning where I really just couldn't get my hands on anything. And as I've gone, I have built up the things listed on the attributes to develop for the Capricorn North Node. And those things have given me something of a stronger backbone in myself, in my own life, that vertical axis of being able to stand upright on your own 2 feet. It is about kind of healing the IC, which is very much in line with that South Node. And it's about developing your MC, your soul's work. What did you come here? What's your dharma? What did you come here to participate with in a meaningful way? That's different for everyone. Literally, everyone has their own unique path in this world. And that is why I believe that literally any of these 12 messages, as I go around this second loop, you could look back at the first loop, any of these messages could be calling to you, even though each of us only has one North Node placement. So when we look at the chapters, definitely be thinking, if you want to develop your Capricorn energy and heal your Cancer shadows, check out the Capricorn North Node sign, the Capricorn North Node chapter. And that would be something my rising sign resonates as a North Node, the Taurus rising that I am resonates with the Taurus North Node chapter of studying. And I've definitely gotten that feedback that I can speak as a Scorpio South Node to a T, and I'm not a Scorpio South Node, I'm a Scorpio descendant. So, and I've done a shit ton of shadow work to bring that stuff up into my consciousness, my own toxic patterns. So there's a lot of ways that we can use the practicality and the usefulness of this video and all of the things that are layered within it. It could help anyone and everyone, no matter what their unique astrology placements are saying. So with that in mind, there is something that I want to open here as far as a door for those of you who are watching this video right here, right now, in this unique instance. There is a door opening for you into this invitation only space, and this is your invitation. So there is an invitation waiting in the invitation only. It's like Inception, like a dream within a dream. It's guys, so freaking fun for me. I'm basically building this energetic speakeasy with no sign. There's no advertisement. That's why I say only for those of you, I started talking about this at 4 minutes and 5 seconds. So anybody who skipped straight to the reading, anybody who's oh no, this is my placement and this is what I want and I already know what I want. Those are not the people who are hearing this invitation, right? Like the people who are hearing this invitation are open and are riding the wave of this experience of getting to be in this space with me. And this is very much one of the prerequisites to what I am hoping to get out of the experiment. So the experiment is my North Node conversation project, my goal of my intention of I want to have a conversation with each individual North Node group. Like I want a representative from all 12 of the signs, eventually all 12 of the houses, all 12 of like the crisscrossed placements. Like I want to check them all off my bucket list. Like my whole bucket list is like all the unique combinations of North Nodes, and I want to talk to them all. It just feels the experiment, like this is just what I need to do. And I don't really know why we're running the experiment other than it sounds like catnip to Carly personally. It sounds like freedom and fun and curiosity and exploration and connection and exploring and excavating my own authenticity. I have a Pisces North Node, which is really about completion. Pisces also contains like a little piece of all of the signs that came before it. Like Pisces does a little bit of everything. It represents the all, the interconnectedness of the all. And so for me on my Pisces North Node journey, that I hadn't made that connection until right now, to be honest with you, but I think that's part of it, is like all the nodal groups have something for me, and I am hungry and have an appetite to consume those pieces. I am ready to see this 12-sided mirror looking back at me. I want to be in conversation. I want to experience that energy. And who's going to participate? Well, anyone, technically. Like as far as what I'm doing, I'm casting this beautiful net. I feel like I bedazzled this net. I built this so that the net itself is like invisible to people who don't line up with my energy, right? Like you have to love my energy to even, I think, like have made it to this point in listening to me ramble. There's like a natural resonance happening in our energies. Step number one, right? Like you can even see the net. And now you have the choice of going down in the description and clicking on the link that's called The Good Parts. Okay, it looks like a YouTube video, but it is technically unlisted on YouTube. No one can find this link except for those who were still here at 4 minutes and 5 seconds and who are still here now to understand what the Good Parts link in the description is all about. That's your invitation to participate. I would say even watching amateurs singing, like someone who doesn't really have skill but's like belting it out, that's what you're gonna get in that video, is me singing The Good Parts by Andy Grammer. And it describes the energetics of the conversations that I'm wanting to have. So not only are our energies resonating, if you're even hearing this invitation, but second, clicking on that video, the vulnerability that it takes on your part to enter into that space and stay in that space is another, like being able to see the getting to the part where I want to be with people. Like I basically, like what I'm seeing is like, I've described it before, where like on Ocean's 12, I think it is, where the night fox and he's going to steal the egg and he has to go through the lasers, and like that laser field is our authenticity, right? Like who can get to the egg is the question. And the egg is me, the egg is you. Like you are precious in the middle of your authenticity, and every ounce of fun and play and all of that I have baked into this is basically like all of the self-protection I ever need to make sure that only the right people are gonna find me. You know, nobody can have access to me without having really pure intentions towards me. Like that is one benefit of being our authentic self, of being repulsive to some, and understanding that anybody who's gonna be repulsed by me is most likely someone who doesn't have my best interest at heart anyway, who doesn't like have good intentions towards me anyway. So being intentionally authentic and intentionally obtuse, intentionally hidden, intentionally difficult to understand intentionally refusing to fit inside anyone's 15-second box of like, you know, it's so often I run into the question out in the world, like, oh, what are you doing now? And this person is like already impatient even as they're asking the question. And I'm like, how would I give you a 15-second version of this story? And so usually I end up saying a little of this, a little of that, you know, having fun, taking care of myself, you know, creating new things. Like I boil it down into the bullet points because that's all they wanted to know. And so it's fascinating how when you bear your true self in like full detail, it's amazing like how many people just like can't even see you. It's like an invisibility cloak, but in a good way. And that's so fun. Where like, again, I think this is something that came up here recently with, you know, it's hard to say if our placements on our natal chart are setting us up for like a hard life or an easy life, if like our energetic design is going to make life hard or if it's going to make life work in a way. And the reason I say that is because, one, I think all of our natal chart placements are just potential, and that all potential, all energies, Gemini energy, for example, has infinite frequencies within Gemini energy. So like you can be talking about the Gemini archetype and we can have a whole range of like, okay, but what does that actually mean? What's it actually going to look like? And so much of coming into our own power is literally taking the reins and realizing that like we do have power to control where is our frequency. Where is our frequency? So that when we meet Gemini energy, that we are seeing Gemini energy from the highest frequency of what we personally are capable of, because there's infinite range to all energies. There's infinite potential to all energies. So some of the things, this is where I go full circle with that invisibility cloak, some of the things that I used to find the most upsetting about my life, in my example, being misunderstood, feeling invisible, like this hurt my heart in a way I just will never be able to put into words. Like all I can do is just hold my little inner child in that, as far as like how much it used to really hurt her and still hurts her to some extent. And how the empowered version of me is in here like building a fucking labyrinth of a maze for my people to rendezvous with me. You know, like some of you are listening, right? Like some of you are hearing this, and a lot of people who clicked on this video aren't, right? So like there is a magic to that. There's a magic to the people who can see us. And like, that's why I feel like I walk around a little bit as a ghost in my own life. And again, that used to be really frustrating to me. And then I've had enough experiences now where I know for a fact that I'm not a ghost. I'm just incredibly talented at being invisible. I'm so good at being unseen. I have like almost a mirrored exoskeleton where I just blend into my surroundings no matter what. Like at this point, honestly, this is like my friggin' superpower. Like I can go invisible. I can literally go invisible. The pain of being invisible was very much about feeling locked into the invisibility, like it was endless. Like it wasn't my choice, it was forced upon me. I was a victim of it. It never ended. It hurt me in so many different ways. I felt like a victim of this invisibility. And now that I have power hooked into me, I won't even say full power, but like as much as I do, I can see how, like, again, like being able to go invisible is incredibly powerful for essentially like not having to worry about self-protection at all, you know? Like, I essentially am finding this ease with being my authentic self because I know that, you know, only people who, for example, like I think it says something about you if you can, well, not even if. It says something about you that you're able to listen to me. It says a lot about the level of patience that you possess. It says a lot about the vastness of your mind and the skill of your intuition to connect dots that are really far apart. And again, like I'm complimenting you, right? This was in the last video that I just released on the channel. I'm complimenting you, but I'm describing myself. Like I know that if you can hear me, you have a very similar talent to what I'm doing here. If you can understand something out of what I'm saying, like I'm not gonna say you're my people because, you know, you get a say in that, right? But like, you're very much a candidate to fit really well into my tribe. So yeah, this is that invitation that if you want to step into the labyrinth, if you've uncovered the door, you know, and if you want to go through it, and if you want to join me in the good parts, and you want to, you know, take it a step further and join me in a North Node conversation where publicly, you know, that video is going to be on my channel, we explore your story. You get to tell your story, and I'm going to ask questions. And if you want to hear my feedback, my opinion, you can ask me for it and I'll give it to you 100% of the time. But if you don't ask, I'm a canvas to allow those conversations to be portraits of different frequencies. To be like, you know, each individual will get to paint their own frequencies onto the canvas, and the conversation itself is like the masterpiece that the viewers will get to, you know, stand back from and take in, and they will, just like all art, they will have their own reaction to whatever it is. And I will have my reaction to whatever it is, and the person will have their experience of whatever it is, and the whole entire thing is very catalytic in nature in terms of, I think, anytime we get real and honest and we stop pretending, we you know, look at what is, the light of awareness itself shining on a thing is transformational. So these conversations have the potential to be incredibly powerful, but like all power, this is not something that I want people just stumbling on, you know, like there's a certain invisibility to this net that I'm casting. There's a certain intentionality to who am I trying to scoop up in this net, and what is it that I am picturing in this space, and who is interested in co-creating this with me. And if you are, there are instructions on how to do that inside the good parts. So enter through the door, find the invitation. I'll maybe see you there. Hello, Capricorn North Nodes, or anyone who is wanting to develop their Capricorn energy. Welcome to this contemplation. I will be using the book Astrology for the Soul by Jan Spiller, and I have us turned here to the North Node and Capricorn chapter. And I want to read through the attributes to develop as far as a Capricorn North Node. And because we are currently just in the beginning months of the Aries North Node transit, I want to talk about how each and every single one of these is linking up with what that kind of cosmic force, what that push of the Aries North Node, what is that angling towards? And, you know, as always, how do we make the best of what that's angling towards for your own soul's evolution in this process? So North Node and Capricorn, attributes to develop. The first one is self-control. And that is a really interesting concept as far as the Aries North Node being really about impulsiveness. And what comes through for me right off the bat is that this one is really related to the Libra South Node, in that, you know, kind of that Cancer South Node isn't actually half bad at self-control in certain ways. In certain ways, the Cancer South Node is actually really good at self-repression when it comes to taking care of their family and their spouse, their partner, like the authority figure that they are, you know, like looking up to in that regard of providing their authority, their safety. So in some ways, self-control is like, I don't think it means to stop yourself from doing things. I think that's furthering kind of the Cancer South Node repressed side. In this aspect, I think self-control can be interpreted, and the Aries North Node very supportive for this, as in controlled by self, not some external authority figure, being your own authority figure. And in that way, the impulsiveness of Aries and the ignition of that fire and to burn brighter within you, the Aries North Node, what it's doing for all of us. And that Libra South Node of showing you like who's in control of you and why, right? Like we're not trying to like blow anything up necessarily, but that's just good information to have when we feel allowed to say something, or like there's a specific way that we should be saying something, or there's a particular side of us that we know someone wants to see, and so that's what we show them. Like external someone is in control, right? So self-control in the Aries North Node sense, to develop your Capricorn North Node, could be like controlled by self, making your own determinations, making your own decisions, and kind of like being willing to burn through a barrier or two in the outside world. So really standing up for yourself when that's necessary feels like something that's required to be in self-control. The next one is approaching life from an adult position. And again, that's so interesting because Aries is the youngest energy, like archetypally, like Aries represents the spark of life, the spark of new life, where it's kind of the Fool energy from the major arcana. So with Aries, it's like, get back to the basics, get back to, you know, that primal life force energy that sparked your existence in the first place. And then here it's like, no, be an adult. So these things can be so confusing. But again, I think how I would interpret this for that Libra South Node is like, how do you define what it means to be an adult? What does that mean to you? What is your emotional reaction to the concept of being an adult? What does it feel like in your body? All of these questions, I would be very curious what's living inside those sensations. This is something that came through yesterday, was, you know, the way we make meaning inside of ourselves determines everything in our lives, I believe. And all of that to say, like, if you think of being an adult and adulting as something of a hindrance, or like, you know, just not an exciting time to you, or like you're just generally turned off by the idea of being an adult, I would be very extra curious then as far as like, what do you think it means to be an adult? Because I personally, like, I was the kid who like couldn't wait to grow up. I could not wait to be an adult, because in my mind, adult equals free. Adult equals self-control, control of self. Nobody else is making my decisions for me. Nobody else is telling me what's on the outside of the boundary. So like approaching life from an adult position, I think goes back to, you are your own authority figure. That's what adult means to me, is that you are the acting authority of your own life. The next one is self-respect. And I think that actually goes along really well with Aries energy. Both of them have that perfectly in common, I think, is that you can tell when you are gaining ground by, are you liking yourself more? Are you respecting yourself more? Are you like appreciating your embodiment of your values. I think that's kind of where self-respect comes from. I'd love to hear where you think it comes from. But like when we are being more of who we were born to be, we will feel better and better and better and better. Aries and Capricorn North Node both are supporting us in that. And when we are shrinking, when we are allowing ourselves to be boxed in and held back and muzzled because somebody else doesn't like what we're doing, we're losing ground, and we'll know it because we start hating ourselves. And we really, like it, you know, it's easy to project hate and dislike and loathing onto another person, but truly, I think those feelings come from being in the face of something disagreeable and not allowing yourself to disagree, you know? And so that's where the erosion of self-respect starts to come into the picture. So self-respect is possibly something that where there can be huge gains in respecting yourself throughout this Aries North Node transit. Staying goal-oriented is one, and I think Aries is honestly gonna be really supportive of that too, where Aries wants what it wants. And honestly, I think personally, there's no better motivation for Capricorn's goals than for Capricorn's goal to be for your own Aries energy to have what it wants. Because that fire never goes out. Never goes out. Never, ever, ever, ever goes out. And so like goal orientation, again, I would be very curious, like, you know, what have you absorbed as far as your understanding, your feelings towards having goals, setting goals, working towards goals? I almost said striving. I wonder if you have a negative opinion about striving. That actually is a great place to put in the seed here that has been coming through in a general sense about the North Node, which is, you know, let's say Capricorn North Node in your example. You're not here to look at people out there, let's say Capricorn South Nodes, right? Like the exact opposite, somebody who's dripping in Capricorn energy. Capricorn North Node, you are not here to go like look at a Capricorn South Node and take down and copy what they're doing. Like that's the exact opposite of evolution, right? Like that would be going back to kind of like patterns that they themselves are sick of because they came with the Capricorn South Node. Like I think you got to be careful about how you understand like what even is the North Node, because the thing about it is, I think there is no one in the world who can show you how to do it. That's why you're here. You're here to invent it. You're here to invent new Capricornian expressions. Ooh, that was really yummy. You're here to create it. It doesn't exist. Like the high frequencies of Capricorn energy, of like what's possible and beautiful through Capricorn energies, it doesn't exist yet. Like that's why you're contemplating this, is like there's a new expression. And so taking, you know, like for example, Capricorn South or Capricorn North Nodes, one of the prescriptions is that you guys should be the boss of everything. You should be the manager all the time. Like you should be in charge of people all the time. That should be everything that you do. You should run teams of people and to accomplish work product, like goals essentially. That's what you should be doing. And I know so many Capricorn North Nodes that are insistent that they cannot be in charge, cannot, will not, do not want the responsibility. And it's like, I get where you're coming from. I do, but no, I don't. No, I don't. Because no, I don't. It's like, okay, if you think you can't do the job, if you think I can't do XYZ, the question is not can you or can't you? The question is how have you defined XYZ? How have you defined being the boss? being in charge? What do you think that means? And the fact that you're saying, I can't do that, is like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it like that. And good. That's like the whole point, is that you would be turned off and repelled by the cultural form of being the boss, being the manager. It should turn you off. It should make you sick to your stomach. And that disgust is the fodder for, okay, then how do you reinvent it? How do you do it differently? How do you stand in your personal sovereignty of saying, the way that you all have been doing this, the status quo of everything that's come before me, we're going to scrap that and we're going to start it. We're going to start doing it this way, because this is the way that's right. This is the way, Cancer South Node, this is the way that's full of love. This is the way that connects people. This is the way that nurtures people so they will bloom and blossom into even more than they already were. This is the way. You all are way showers. And I get, no, you know what? No, I don't. Like, again, that video I just released, like, I'm trying to take likability out of the equation. And you guys, as Cancer South Nodes, like, you are some of the most loving creatures on the planet. And that is why you should be in charge, because you're here to teach more people how to be loving. You're right. Most people don't know how. They're not Cancer South Nodes, not like you, right? So owning the depth of love that you have for people and partnering that then with the Aries North Node of like standing up for and protecting people with less social power than you. And that is the beauty of getting to be in charge, is that once you truly have the responsibility of like, you are the boss, you are the leader of this team. How I understand that, what I think it means is that, again, you are responsible for the outcome of what happens as a result of that team coming together. It's your responsibility. And what comes with that responsibility, typically, if you're doing it right, I mean, just like, you should be doing it like this. What comes with that responsibility is the creative freedom to run things however I want, right? Like, you gave me the responsibility to create this output. Now back the fuck off and let me do it how I want. I'm gonna love these people. I'm gonna bring them together and we're gonna sing Kumbaya with our arms around each other. We're gonna, paint each other's faces and give each other back rubs. Like, I'm gonna do it however I want. And you can't stop me because I'm responsible, right? Like, that authority becomes like a protective barrier that you get to wrap around whoever it is that you're responsible for, and you say, you go away. These people are my responsibility. They're my responsibility to lead. They're my responsibility to love. They're my responsibility to develop and to see the best in them, such that maybe they see themselves in even better light than they could before. They're even more confident in their own self-respect, their own self-sufficiency. Like, you are truly developing the people around you. Why shouldn't you be in charge? Why shouldn't you be running the world? Like, that's a serious question. Like, these people who, when you defer, when you just like, oh, it shouldn't be me, like, let somebody else do, like, they're not bringing the love to that job that you would be. AKA, in my opinion, they're not doing it as well as you could. And so while you don't believe in yourself, there's people out there causing impact that, like, the people on those teams, they deserve you. They deserve the love that you could give them, not the half respect that the person who, has the confidence but not necessarily the skill, right? You're over here with the skill and not necessarily the confidence. Like, I think this Aries North Node is going to be a godsend for you in your life, as far as stepping up into your authority over your own life and to grow in your capacity to hold authority in general, as far as taking positions of authority, allowing that to become your job, as far as I am responsible as the authority. I am the boss, therefore it is my job to make the decisions, to be the final say on what we're doing, the direction we're going, the output that we're aiming for, and how we're going to get there. That's the boss's general responsibility. The manager's general responsibility is like the, are we on track? Like, I've got my map, I know where we're trying to go, I'm with the troops, I see where we are. Come on, guys, we need to go left. Like, that's the boss's job. And then getting your people there safely that's the part where you guys are uniquely qualified. Like, for example, the average boss is looking at, where are we going? Where are we at? This is the direction. The depth of promise and potential and love that you guys have to offer is really built in the how we get there, how we travel between where we are now and the destination. Because, you can sacrifice people along the way. You can bicker amongst yourselves such that, a couple people die in some knife fights along the way. Like, dude, like, how you travel between point A and point B is really important. It's like really, really, really important. And the status quo, the current culture of boss in this world, is not necessarily prioritizing. It's a new age boss. It's a new earth boss that's prioritizing how we travel. And how safe are my people as we travel? How nurtured and fed and cared for are my people as we travel? This is the depth of love that you all have to bring to the table. And I feel like that's a really great chunk of contemplation to leave you with today, Capricorn North Nodes. It has been my pleasure. I would love it if you loved the video, take a second, give it a thumbs up. That is such a cool way to support the channel. So easy, so simple, and yet it does a lot, like on YouTube. And it lets me see, what are you resonating with? What do you want to see more of? Thank you so much for taking the time to share your experience with me. If any of the other piles or timestamps are calling to you, I encourage you to head there and check that out. Possibly in some of the other videos or any of the links in the description. There's a lot in there that may be calling to your intuition. And until next time, I do hope that you take such good care of the beautiful, loving self that you are, and so will I. Hello, Aquarius North Node, or anyone who's wanting to develop their Aquarius energy while working on their Leo shadows. You're in the right place. That's exactly what we're going to do here. This is a very personal chapter to me, this whole axis, the Leo and the Aquarius North Node, where my moon is in Leo. And as I get more and more into both of these chapters, I have the belief that basically the moon is like a combination of the two, that the moon automatically gives you like the shadows of both. I don't know, that's my own personal opinion. With my Leo moon, I resonate as a Leo South Node, and maybe a little bit even more as a Leo North Node. So I don't know, whatever that tells you. So the game plan for this contemplation is I'm going to look in this book, Astrology for the Soul by Jan Spiller. She has in the North Node and Aquarius chapter, attributes to develop. And as I go, I'll share also my thoughts around how each of these is playing into the Aries North Node transit that we are also currently going through. So the first one is objectivity and seeing the total picture. And that's really interesting because the Libra South Node is really about kind of not looking at the total picture and more focusing in on yourself. And so to become more detached, right? Like, well, and that makes a lot of sense because your North Node is in air and the current North Node is in fire. So like normally you've got your South Node purge, cleanse, healing thing happening in fire. So that North Node in Aries trining your South Node in Leo I could see some very clarifying experiences happening here, some challenges possibly even, where you manifest an opponent, but like in a helpful way, where that opposition lets you see maybe part of part of you that you've outgrown, and part of like the old you versus the part of you that you now are, or who you want to be going forward. That somehow that oppositional, I was going to say force, I don't like the negative connotation that that's giving it, but like the oppositional push of someone else being maybe like how you used to be, and that's like this push that, okay, no, I don't want to be like that anymore. And one of the attributes to develop is objectivity. Aquarius in its highest frequencies is like the beautiful side of emotional detachment, and what that lets you do when you take your own personal ego wants and needs out of the equation. The next one is desire for friendship, and that one I actually really feel tied into this Aries North Node, and especially the Libra South Node, where it's like, you can have a million people around you and you can still feel the loneliest you've ever felt. And so friendship and like desire for friendship, I think what it's really saying here is, how do you define friend? That's like a great place to start, because when I think of friend, I have a very wide difference between a friend and an acquaintance, like someone who I know and like can interact with socially. Like I have ease there, maybe we even have rapport, but they're not my friend, right? Like a friend, in my opinion, is someone where like more heart to heart, authentic to authentic, like deep diving into each other is happening inside of a friendship space, at least for me. And so the thing about the Aries North Node that's really supportive to this is, how many of the people that you spend most of your time with, how many of them are actually your friend? And this is not to vilify them or anything like that, but it is to kind of throw out the idea for you to consider that in order to have really good friends, in order to be like authentic person to authentic person, like to have that connection where someone is seeing and appreciating your real self, you have to be willing to show your real self. Like there's that Aries North Node of being more yourself and being more impulsive, and trusting that impulsivity will lead you to the right people. And by right, I don't mean like they have anything in particular going for them other than they're your soul people. They're the ones who are here to like help your soul evolve. And sometimes they will show you things that you like and that helps your soul evolve, and sometimes they'll show you things that you don't like and that helps your soul evolve. So like it's like those are your right people, those people that you can be in friendship space with. We're in like a reciprocal giving and pouring into each other kind of way. So I think Aries North Node, as we build up our authenticity, and Libra South Node, as we kind of dismantle any of the social facades that we may be playing at. Like with the Leo South Node, there's like a royalty thing, like a regal posture and air that, like a self-confident kind of thing. And part of it could be like, are you carrying yourself that way because that's just natural and that's who you are? And if so, like, dude, like move on about your business, like you're good to go. And if it's like, no, this is like, I'm playing a part, I'm putting on a show, I'm, trying to be lovable to other people, like that's where that Libra South Node sextiling your Leo South Node could possibly be showing some of the masks that you're putting on. That, like, not that there's anything wrong with that. You can do whatever you want. You have free will and you get to decide. You're the authority in your life. But this desire for friendship and this desire for authentic connection with another person, in order to do that, you have to be you. And if you're like playing at a certain personality or like trying to be a certain way, you're no longer putting forth your authentic self. And then real friendship kind of like, at that point I would be like, it's not even really possible. The next one is making decisions for the group's best interest. This is actually something that I think could be really cool as far as the Libra South Node trining your Aquarius North Node. It's like the world is in desperate need of justice. Like, no matter where you look, like there's all kinds of open positions to like be the deliverer, the harbinger of justice. Like you can do whatever you want, kind of wherever you see yourself fitting through your authentic self. There are so many different ways where you can personally apply your own life to making a positive impact for other people. And this Libra South Node is bringing up to the surface a lot of injustices. You know, I'm reminded of the quote, the only thing needed for evil to persist in the world is for good men to do nothing. And, you know, don't mind the men part, like just good people to do nothing. Like you see it and you do nothing. So this is where I see this leap between, you know, let's say, for example, this is like fresh on my mind because the Hawaii wildfires like just happened at the time I'm recording this. Let's say you don't live in Hawaii, but as the aftermath happens, let's say you were like, for whatever reason, you were inspired, you were like locked on to, I'm gonna organize, I'm gonna go there and donate my time, I'm gonna organize this fundraiser and send this money, these supplies, I'm gonna do something. And you weren't personally impacted, like you didn't lose everything in this fire. That's where I think like the objectivity, the making decisions for the group's best interest, like it's not about what you want and need. It's about the group and what's going on in the group. And that's where I think the Libra South Node is going to be feeding information like crazy to your Aquarius North Node. And like, yeah, what is it? What is it that just lights your soul on fire, that you're like, no, I'm going to aim every ounce of my life force energy at burning this thing to the ground? So what is that like stokes your passions, gets your flames a-flaming? Ooh, this is such a good one. Willingness to share unconventional ideas. Again, I think this actually is really supported by the Aries North Node, where we are being encouraged to step into the authenticity of what's real for us. And the Libra South Node is letting us recognize like where have we previously been like playing nice or people pleasing or playing politics or sucking up to some external authority figure who we think is going to grant us some level of safety in the world. Like we, you know, it's kind of like a contemplation on why wouldn't you? Like, what's so special about unconventional ideas? Like, what's the big deal? Well, it's scary to stand apart from the crowd. It's scary to be on the leading edge when everybody else is back there in the status quo going, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like, there's a resistance to the unconventional part that is kind of what you have to stand against. If you want to change things, if you want to introduce something new, there will always be the headwinds of the status quo that you have to push your way through. And again, I think that Aries North Node, the courage, the fire, the kind of can't hold our fire back any longer, have to say what's real, have to say what's true. I think that can really go a long ways to support, like, what are your unconventional ideas? What are your unpopular opinions? You know, what do you look at culture doing and society doing and go, I don't understand that at all. I see it completely differently. Like, here's my opposing viewpoint. And that is very Aquarian. Like, Aquarius stands apart from the crowd, and it's that emotional detachment, but in a healthy way. It's like the only way you can really see the pattern of what's even going on in the crowd, the constellation of the whole of all of the individuals that make up the crowd, like what's really going on. You have to get apart and stand from this like apart place or this this bird's eye view, in this observational capacity of like making these connections, seeing the patterns, having the thoughts. And so when you observe society, what patterns just totally baffle you? Because that's a good place to start, as far as like clearly you see it differently if you cannot understand what they're doing. And so maybe the way you see it, not that other people need to see it your way or that they need to do it like you're doing it, but that you have information, right? You have an Aries North Node. So like you're wanting to share the information and then leave it at that. Like let other people do whatever they want with the information you're sharing, but share the information. Like you got to get it out there. And that headwind of pushing through with an unconventional idea, I definitely resonate with that. So kudos to you if you're somewhere along that journey. The next one is, I feel like very much in that same vein of willingness to champion humanitarian causes, of like when you see people suffering injustice in the world, or abuse or loss or tragedy, you know, what do you do about it? Do you like, oh, that sucks, and like move on with your day? Or does it inspire you to want to basically be a part of the solution? So I think that too could be very helpful with the Aries North Node, the North Node in a fire sign, of like rushes of inspiration, giving birth to new things, that there is likely a cause that already resonates as like, yeah, like something that comes to mind almost instantaneously, that's like just, you're willing to fight it. You're willing to fight for it. And yeah, I could see that Aries North Node chapter being, well, the cardinal energy of it starting something new, like being a real turning point for you in that Aquarius North Node journey, where you truly find like a new gear in your life experience when you start living for the good of the all. Active participation in groups. So that's an interesting one, as far as like, you know, why wouldn't you participate in groups? And maybe you have a sour taste in your mouth about groups for whatever reason. And if so, that Libra South Node could be really helpful, as far as like, you know, if there is any kind of holding back from the group, like what is your understanding of like what the group is for? What is your understanding of the purpose of participating in the group? What's it for? What's the use? What's the function of it? And defining that for yourself and having a healthy relationship with, what is this even for? What is my participation in the group even for? I highly recommend that kind of as a prerequisite to entering into a group, because if you're there to seek ego validation, which may be the cause if you have your Leo South Node, like that wouldn't surprise me, and that's okay. You're there to seek ego validation. Chances are the group is going to hate on you a bit. The group is going to put you down, possibly disrespect you, belittle you, like anything it can to chip away at your ego. Anything that it can to show you that, nope, that's not how you're going to be here. But I say all of that because if you are there for the good of the all, if you're interacting with a group and participating in a group because you have a shared humanitarian mission on this planet, like you want the same thing, let's say climate change, you want to, you know, stop climate change or whatever, and that's your thing, working together with other people who have that same vision of a healthier planet, then the reason that you're there is to further the goal, to further the, you know, what is it that we're ultimately trying to impact by participating in this group. And so when you've selected to be there because of the cause, the good of the all, then, and this is my own personal understanding and beliefs around team dynamics, is very much in that Aquarian sense of like, everyone is unique. Everyone is 100% unique. So that means that you have a unique contribution to bring to that group. You have some unique skill set, you have some unique capability or gift inside of the way you're wired that you are going to contribute. And so does every single other person. There's like a level of equality inside the group that basically says like, no one can really validate the ego of the other person because like we're all equal. Like we all are really important. We all play a critical role in how the group functions and the fact that we're all going to cross the finish line together. You know, like either we're all going to win or we're all going to lose. And we each bring what we can to the table, and we appreciate each other for giving whatever it is within ourselves to give. So you kind of like, what the other people in the group think isn't even relevant by the time you get there. Like it's just you making your contribution to a cause that you care deeply about, and the participation in the group is really just the vehicle for the most effective, most powerful way to enact change is to not go it alone, to have multiple people who are sincerely determined and driven to contribute to whatever impact it is that you're trying to create. So I think the key with that individuality that Aquarius is talking about is to really focus on validating yourself and appreciating yourself for like, what is the unique contribution that you are bringing. And then it's not about like being better than anybody else or them being better than you. They're bringing something totally different. It's apples and oranges. You know, like you bring the entree, I'll bring dessert. Like we're bringing two different things and we need both. We want both, hopefully. Hopefully we can have both. So yeah, I think the active participation in groups is really about being able to see that other people have really valuable things to contribute that likely look nothing at all like the things that you're there to contribute. I think that's a pretty good chunk to leave us with today, Aquarius North Node. I would love to hear kind of what your favorite parts were, any timestamps that jumps out at you. I love that. Any of the other chapters that are calling to you, either in the description below, the other videos, or any of the other messages coming through on the first round or the second round, this space, opening it up for us to be able to contemplate healing these shadows, working on building these higher frequencies, like this is my idea of a play space. So the fact that you're sharing it with me, I absolutely love it. I'm having a blast. I hope you are too. If you are, please take a second and hit that thumbs up button, the like button. It really helps the channel. Really appreciate those of you that are doing that. Subscribe if you're into it. Leave a comment down below, all that jazz. Until next time, I do hope that you will take such good care of the beautiful being that you are, and so will I. Hello, Pisces North Node, and welcome to anyone who's wanting to develop their Pisces energies while healing their Virgo shadows. Kudos to anybody who's checking this out. We are going to talk through Jan Spiller's in Astrology for the Soul. I have it open to the Pisces North Node chapter. We're going to talk through the attributes to develop and specifically look at them through a lens of this Aries North Node chapter, this transit that we're living under at this time, or the time I'm recording this. So the first one for Pisces North Node is being non-judgmental. And if you think about like where we are in the cycle with this Aries North Node transit, like Pisces North Node is coming next. So even I've already started like designing the little background image for like when I'm going to switch over and start talking about Pisces North Node, which probably will be kind of soon, like not switch completely, but we'll start looking more and more at how is this Aries North Node chapter leading into what is coming during the Pisces North Node. And for those of us that have Pisces North Node, we're coming up on our nodal return. So this Aries North Node chapter is the one right before, the last one before the big hurrah. So how does the Aries North Node help us to be non-judgmental? And I think actually the Libra South Node can be really helpful in us understanding like where did those judgments come from in the first place, because there's a saying like we judge in other people what we're scared will be judged in us. And so we learn our judgments to a large part, I think, based on how other people have judged us, based on how we were taught, Libra South Node, like the conditioning that we received around what is acceptable behavior and what is not acceptable behavior. And based on what we were taught was the answer to that, later on, we may have a real propensity to judge anything that falls outside of acceptable behavior, but we didn't come up with that. Right? Like that was something that was handed down to us. So I think part of this Aries North Node transit can be super helpful from that Libra South Node angle of becoming aware of kind of the roots of your judgments, both against yourself and towards other people. And I mean, I believe that those are kind of the same thing. Like no matter if you catch yourself judging yourself or if you catch yourself projecting it onto another person, it's all just you becoming aware of the kinds of things that you judge in other people. And it's not about, ever like stopping ourselves from being real or whatever is really happening for us. It's just good information to have. That Mercury ruled Virgo South Node wants the information so that then we have the biggest picture possible. We have all the information we need to make a good decision. So being non-judgmental, I think that's one side of it, with the Libra South Node helping us to see where these judgments even coming from out of our programming. The other side, the more we personally are following that Aries North Node journey of leaning into our authentic selves, like the more we personally are individualizing to our fully unique being and allowing ourselves to be that, being a safe space for ourselves to be that, the more we are doing that, the less judgmental we naturally are. So it's like, the more we judge other people, again, they are only a projection of what is happening between you and you. So if you're really, really judgy of other people, that means that you have a big problem with who you are. You don't like who you are. And to distract ourselves from that, we judge other people. It's basically how I think it works. And so it's like, might as well just leave them out of it and really study the judgments that you do have, and where do you judge yourself for those things, and how does that judgment serve you and how does it not serve you? I heard somebody say the other day, like, give it the life test. Like, how's it working out for you? You can do whatever you want. Nobody says you have to lean towards your Pisces North Node in this example. Nobody says you have to become non-judgmental. The thing about a Virgo South Node is that those judgments are like on steroids to the point where they can cause so much anxiety about like it not being correct, like something happening where like you're judging it, that's wrong. And it's so intense that like, it's wrong. It's not correct. I have to fix it. Like the intensity of that anxiety can bring us to a breaking point. At least that's what happened for me. It's like, I had to have the weight of that become too much. And it really was judgment. It was judgment on myself that like I had to do all of this in a day or I wasn't valuable. There was judgment like from other people of what they expected of me and what they did and didn't like from me. Like there's all of this judgment that is spawning one particular life experience. And as we go through this Aries North Node and we get more authentic on more a desire of like, what is it that we want life to be? Not criticizing everything that we think is wrong with ourselves and with others, whichever direction we're pointing it. Not what's wrong, but what do you want? I feel like this as a lead up to that Pisces North Node is such a beautiful gift, the way this falls, because ultimately this was in the book, What You Think of Me Is None of My Business by Terry Cole Whitaker. She says, basically God's will is that you have whatever you want. Pisces North Node, like, is a lot about recognizing ourselves as God, right? Like recognizing the benevolent, loving being, unconditionally, universally loving being inside of all of us, God. Like Christ consciousness inside of each and every single one of us. That is the Pisces North Node of like recognizing yourself as God in human form, or the universal consciousness in human form having an experience of itself. And from that angle, from the angle of non-physical, the biggest picture possible outside of time and space, there is no judgment. There is only acceptance. There's only like acceptance and transcendence into bliss, into merging and having union with the divine. Like that's possible. It is possible. But when we judge things, we are like essentially pointing a finger at it and saying like, you're not how you're supposed to be. And having that argument with reality of like, you're not how you're supposed to be. And reality's like, I don't take orders, I just am. So either like we're gonna stop judging and merge into the divine as we're meant to with Pisces North Node, or we continue judging and we continue holding ourselves apart. And there's no right or wrong answer. It's all a matter of timing. And I think this Aries North Node chapter, though, has a good chance to get us so kind of lost in our desires that we kind of just forget about our judgments. We kind of forget about what's wrong with other people, and we really carve out time and space for us to get to decide like, what even is it that I want? What even is it that I desire? What do I want to, use my fire to light on fire in this world? What thrill am I really looking for? What am I lit up about? And to get really clear on yourself in that way. And then we go into the Pisces North Node chapter coming next, and our nodal returns, and we have kind of a coming to fruition moment of universal forces pushing in this direction of you can have whatever you want, but the way you're going to get there is to like relax and let it come to you. You're not going to like judge it to life, basically. That don't work. The second attribute to develop is compassion. And I feel like this like interstage left compassion, like right on cue, because as we go through this whole like healing our judgmentalness, you better believe it is one motherfucker of a slippery slope to try to not judge yourself for being judgmental, and then like you're judgmental, and then you're judging yourself for being judgmental, and then you judge yourself for judging yourself for it's like one of those mirrors pointed at each other where like it could go on in ripple effects forever. And that's kind of what I'm talking about with like the intensity of the anxiety that comes from the judgment. The weight of arguing with reality, trying to make it be different than it is. Versus that radical acceptance that says whatever is. And the smoothness of my ride or the roughness of my ride is all about what I make out of what is. I can fight against it in judgment and condemnation, or I can accept it and I can start asking myself really fun questions like, how do I use this to my advantage? This limitation that's in my way. How do I use it as like creative raw materials to like make something beautiful out of this limitation that's holding me back? Like, is there such a thing? When you start factoring in divine timing, I really think that every single thing is happening exactly when it is meant to. So this compassion that says, I'm right on time everywhere I go. I'm right on time in my 3-month hibernation in my bed while I binge watch Criminal Minds on Netflix for the millionth time. Like, I'm right on time. Right place, right time in my bed in my 3-month hibernation. Right place, right time, skipping that thing that I didn't feel like going to. Right place, right time, sitting down to make the video when it's bubbling up out of me and I can't contain myself. Right? That's where Aries energy and that impulsiveness, that instinctualness that is Aries energy, that's where, again, I think that can really help us. I have my Mars, the ruler of Aries, I have my Mars right on my North Node. I wonder how many of you have that same aspect. I seem to manifest a lot of people around me who have that same aspect. And I was talking to my coach in my session just this last week, and we were talking about how I am really ready to, like Aries and Pisces, I'm ready to step into allowing myself to have what I want in kind of a badass way. Meaning I'm ready to not let the judgments from myself or from others hold me back. You know, like I am unwilling to allow whatever kind of status quo or standards or like this is the right way. It's like predefined, this like script of what you're supposed to be. Like I have it kind of like in my bones to the point where sometimes I don't even notice that I'm following it. And this Libra South Node is really bringing a lot to the surface around how much of my energy I am still giving away to playing the role that I think I'm supposed to play, and how much of that energy then is not available for creating the life that I want. So as we become aware of the places where we are leaking energy, and then we're going to recapture that energy, we're going to seal off that leak, we're going to build different habits and different patterns of behavior that leaves more of our creative energy available to us to use on God's will is whatever you want. Like it's whatever you desire in your heart of hearts, that desire that burns at the core of who you are. That is what universal forces wants you to pursue. And in the pursuit of that, you will have the experience that you are meant to have. And nobody promised that that's going to be all light and love and rainbows and puppies and unicorns, you know? Like there will be some of that, but there will also be the full spectrum of what it means to be human on this planet. So that is to say, there's plenty to judge. There's plenty to compare ourselves to that can, you know, keep us awake at night thinking that maybe we're not doing it right. So that's where giant doses of self-compassion every day, all day long, that says you're right on time. You know, inside this angst about, am I doing it right? Am I not doing it? You're right on time. That is where you're meant to be. You know, like anytime there is, and I think that this is very different from spiritual bypassing, and maybe I want to talk about that just a little bit, even if for my own clarity here, around like, you know, what is the difference between compassion and spiritual bypassing? And I think the biggest difference is in that Virgo South Node appreciation of practicality. In one, the problem still exists, you know? Problem, right? When we have compassion for something, that's not complacency. That's not saying that like, oh, it's fine, right? That would be spiritual bypassing. That would be like, oh, it's fine. It's not a big deal. Don't need to worry about that. It's like, in compassion, there is the acknowledgement that no, you don't need to worry about that because divine timing, you're right on time. We can truly surrender our anxiety, our worry to the higher power that is guiding the timing of all things coming to fruition. We do not have to worry about it. But that doesn't mean that there's nothing there for us that like needs our attention or our action or like that. I wish I had an example here for you. Okay, so like compassion for, like in my example right now, what I'm going through, this contemplation that I've had going back and forth of wanting to be able to share my unpopular opinions, my controversial opinions, and recognizing, you know, having compassion for the scared inner child that was rejected and learned that it's not safe to vocalize who you are, like who you really are. It's not safe to do that. So I can have compassion for myself and the fear that I am in when I do feel held back from being my full authentic self. I feel afraid, and that's what's holding me back. So I do have compassion. I comfort my inner child and reassure her that, I mean, she has every right to feel this way. That was painful, that it is painful to have people reject you. It is painful to, you know, it's really not that bad. This is what I know now, and this is what I soothe her with, is that it's really not painful to have people reject you. What's painful is to believe what they're saying is true. So essentially, the painful part is when I reject me, right? When you reject you by believing what they're saying, rather than having your own back, rather than knowing the truth about yourself such that if other people don't get it, like, they just don't get it, you know, no big deal. So I can have compassion for the part of myself that is afraid of, you know, being rejected, of being hated or harmed in some way. I can have compassion for myself, and I can continue this exploration and curiosity, this reaching for, how do I step 1% more, you know, like with my inner child, like kind of, I see her like swaddled onto me, like I'm wearing her, like, you know, you're good right here, like we're good, you're my number one. And as we're soothing you, let's just have an eye out for, like, you know, how can we step, now that we know other people's opinions of ourselves are only a reflection of them, like that's what we were afraid of, is that it meant that we were bad. We know our truth now, right? So like, now that we know our truth, how could we 1% more, like, step more into the light of day, step more into the authenticity of who we really are? Aries North Node, that's what it wants from us. And as it leads into this Pisces North Node, it is truly, I mean, the sky isn't even the limit, okay? Like, the sky, and then the space, and then whatever is beyond space. There is no limit to what is possible through you. No limit. No limit to what your life can be. No limit to what, nobody needs anything from you. There's no, and I mean that in the best way possible. There's no expectation for what you need to be in this life. You can have anything that you want. The power to have it is yours. And all that's needed is just one simple little step of a fully defined sense of self, right? In order to point and say, I want that, you have to know what you want. You have to know, like, who you are and what lights you up. What is your desire? What is your curiosity? What do you feel drawn towards? Maybe you don't have proof, you don't have evidence, you don't have anybody else's support to go and do that thing, but you want it because it's pulling you from the inside out. What is that? And if you don't know yet, that's okay. Again, have compassion for ourselves. It's just another step along the way of getting to know yourself well enough to have a relationship with your desire, where you know exactly what you desire and you know exactly where you are in relationship to having the thing, how often you have the thing, how close you are to the thing, like a relationship with your desire. And then this Pisces North Node comes around, where literally the universe is just waiting to deliver to you exactly what you want. And the last piece of the puzzle always to click into place. Stella don't want to snuggle with you right now, Bob. The last piece of the last piece of the puzzle to always click into place is you pointing at the thing and saying, that's what I want. And then it's like, oh, I've been waiting for you here. You can have me. And you just merge into the infinite of you and your desire. But to do that, you have to know what is it that you desire. So that's where, again, this Aries North Node chapter is a beautiful time to really dig into yourself, your being, not who you were taught you were, not who other people think you need to be, not even who you think you need to be. Who are you? What moves energy inside your being? What blows air on your fire and makes it burn brighter? Answer those questions, and I think you'll basically have a preview of what's coming in your upcoming nodal return. Pisces North Node, this has literally been my pleasure. There's nowhere in the universe I would rather be than sharing this space with you right here, right now. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. If you liked this video, please take a second to give it a thumbs up. That really helps my channel. I really appreciate those of you doing that. Subscribe if you're into the content, all that jazz. Share it with someone you think. Until next time, do take such good care of unwrapping the delicious gift of who you really are, and so will I.